Redditors who suddenly came into a lot of money. What was your horror story of people begging for money? I unexpectedly inherited about 4 years worth of take-home pay. Before I knew how much it would be, I told my best friend I'd be getting a few $1,000s. She immediately asked me to take her on a trip to Europe. That was the biggest thing she asked for, but she made other small requests as well. When the money came through, and it was a lot more than I'd anticipated, I did not tell my friend. Instead, I started distancing myself from her. I also did not tell any of my other friends. I did tell my boyfriend. He did not ask for anything. I took him on a trip to Europe. So I wouldn't consider it a lot of money, but I won $5,000 on a scratch off that was given to me on my birthday by my aunt. It was just a $2 scratcher and obviously nobody thought I would win that much. I scratched it in front of everyone, and they were all super excited for me, except my aunt who demanded the ticket back, because she paid for it. I even offered to split half with her. Long story short, she took me to small claims where the judge pretty much laughed, and she didn't get shit. Haven't talked to her since. This is similar to a story where an aunt and her nephew won a small lottery. The aunt bought a lottery ticket and put her and the nephew's name on it. She won and was interviewed right afterwards. She said that she loved her nephew and he was her good luck, so that's why she put the nephew's name on the lottery ticket. Since both names were on the ticket, they split the winning half and half. Then the aunt starts claiming that it was her who paid for the ticket and chose the numbers, so she should be the one who gets all the money. She then sues the nephew. Greed changes people. I got 2 instances. I won $640 off a $5 Keno ticket, and my pop and uncle wanted half each, claiming it was family rule. It was a joke, of course. We all had a laugh. In my part-time job I worked long hours many days a week. For a month, I ended up getting paid well over $1,000. 3 separate times. The amount of people expecting, not asking but expecting me to shout things. Some of the requests were not bad. $1 Macca's hamburgers and maybe shout dinner for my family when they didn't have much money. 17 years old, so I didn't have any debts to pay. But some of the requests were ridiculous. Like I had friends of friends ask me if I could buy them expensive shit like $50 handbags, new clothes, drugs, not weed, but coke and shit, even a phone repair by Apple. Yay, fuck that. I'm adopted, USA, and an only child. I have an aunt that insists that, because I'm not actually their child, that I have no legal rights to my parents' estate, which is sizable. Go dad. Little does she know, I stand to inherit it all per the family trust as sole beneficiary. My mother and her sisters haven't spoken in over a decade, and frankly my parents can't stand the rest of the family. I've seen them do some shady, underhanded dealings with each other when grandparents passed, and I'm preparing for war. Once my parents pass, it should be a short war. When my grandmother passed away, she made sure my mom was the one responsible for getting everything distributed correctly, because 2 of my 3 uncles were money-grubbing assholes who tried to take her to court because they thought they deserved more. Between them and the uncle on my dad's side trying to get us written out of that, grandparents will after my dad passed. My sister and I will have zero trouble if, God forbid, anything happened to my mom. We know how south shit can go, and we reassure our mom constantly that we would never even passive-aggressive argue over some shit like that. So a few years out of college, my girlfriend and I were living in a sort of large communal apartment with 5 other people, 2 bedrooms, 2 couches in the common area. I had just gotten a significant promotion at my job, and that situation was exceptionally below my means, but my GF was convinced that these were her people and they were all going to become great philosophy writers and poets by living together and sharing experiences. They were all unemployed or underemployed and experienced moochers, so I was very careful not to let them know I was saving large sums of money with the intent of moving out soon and taking my GF with me, or not. One day the other couple had an argument about rent, and to try and keep them from coming to blows, my GF promised them that I'd cover it for them and showed them one of my pay stubs, which I guess they showed everyone else. I got home from work and walked right into an apartment meeting ambush where everyone else informed me that they wanted me to contribute more meaningfully and they'd put it to a vote before I got back. I told them that I was already paying for their food, that they kept guilting my GF into buying for them, topping up the apartment emergency fund instead of stealing from it like the rest of them, and many other things, and that I wasn't going to cover other people's rent as well. The next day, when I was at work, someone went into my room and destroyed my laptop, which was the only thing of value I owned at the time. I collected the few things I wanted to take, told my GF I was breaking up with her, and walked out. Edit. I just realized I'm effectively the bad guy from Rent. Well, Rent sucks. I inherited my beloved grandma's house alongside with some other properties. As the house and the properties are near a very rapidly developing city, prices have skyrocketed and lead to me inheriting about $1.5 million in value. That may sound awesome at first, but it truly isn't. The house is a very old brick house, built in the late 1700s, and the properties are so small and widely distributed I can't really sell them for a good price. As the house is a listed historical building, every little repair has to be done by state-approved professionals for restoration and conservation of old buildings, which basically doubles, if not even triples the costs. I rented it out, but the rent I get is barely enough to cover the costs of repairs, insurance etc. I'm lucky if I get even by the end of the year. But as this house is where my family used to live for the last 4 generations before my dad bought the ranch and moved there with my mum, I want to keep it in the family as long as possible. Now, somehow, word has spread that I inherited a lot of money. I did my best to stop these rumors, but it didn't work out. I've never had many friends, but the ones I have are true quality friends. They will do everything for me, and I will do everything for them. After I got the house and the rumors spread, I got invitations to dinner in some really fancy restaurants. I was invited to sport events, I don't even like sports, and some other very costly activities. All these came from people who claimed to be my friends. Needless to say, they expected me to pay for everything. You've got so much money, what do these $500 matter to you? I'll pay you back sometimes. etc. were the common phrases I got to hear. The best one were, you are way too young, 28 BTW, to have this kind of money, so just give it to us. You don't deserve to have so much money. You have never worked a day in your life. Been working at the power plant since I was an apprentice at 16. Worked my way up to deputy manager / shift supervisor, while the guy this came from was unemployed, as long as I can remember, and lived from welfare. I have now learned who to trust and to spot telltale signs of vultures. Not technically begging, but still a horror story in my opinion. When I was around the age of 5, I had a job. Of course, my mom helped out tremendously and got me involved in this career platform, but it took a lot of time and effort on both of our parts, so we quite the profit from it. All the money was deposited under my name though, so I could use it once I turned 18. Didn't know this until I actually turned 18, but a trusted family member who knew my account information went into my account and took a good portion of money. It was pretty fucked up realizing that someone who had already done some pretty fucked up shit to me during my life also felt comfortable enough basically stealing money from a child. Still upsets me to this day because I wish that money cold gone to my mom. She deserved it more than anyone. Edit. For those wondering what job I had at age 5, I was in the acting and modeling industry. I'm a fairly average guy in my mid-20s who always wears the same $2 shirt and $5 jeans, but over the years it started to leak out that I had some money after a combination of me buying a business in my very small hometown, a gossipy girl from school who saw me on Seeking Arrangement, and enough social media posts showing me constantly traveling in business class or whatever, and the fact I seemed to do very little actual work. Then in the last year or so I've discovered a seemingly entire new branch of my family tree and a whole bunch of people from high school I don't remember ever saying more than a few words to suddenly claiming me as their childhood best friends. I caught up with an old actual schoolmate who knew me well enough and were having coffee, and she asks, "Is it true you bought a plane?" and a few things like that were absolutely insane. The Chinese whispers in my town had apparently gone absolutely crazy, and I'm always uncomfortable running into someone when I'm back there because everyone thinks I'm some crazy playboy millionaire when I spend most of my time in a blanket fort on the internet like everybody else. The extended family are the worst though, because they harass my mum, dad and grandmother who know nothing about my financial situation to borrow money. Many of these people I've never met in my life. Not an interesting story, but definitely an annoyance in my life. People weren't begging, but we felt like they were jealous and envious and did not approve of our decision. Basically my husband came into money because he had a number of severe permanent injuries from his prior job. So he got paid out a large sum and decided to stop working for a while. This was because we had been through some very serious illness. I was ill, and personal circumstances which fucked us both up mentally, so we wanted to take the time to recover our mental health. And secondly, he needed to study to change careers because he was unable to work in his former career due to injuries. Many people, even our parents, disagree with him having even a few months off work to recuperate. This really shits me up the wall. And there have been so many people that don't think we deserve the money and are envious of the house we were able to buy with it.